The Profectory Podcast, Mastering the Mind and Market. Hosted by Manny Charan, we explore what it takes to succeed, both in business and within yourself. From strategy and business growth to mindset and resilience, we provide the tools to lead with clarity, confidence, and wisdom. Welcome to the Profectory Podcast, Mastering the Mind and Market. My name is Manny Charan, and I'm your host. At the Profectory Podcast, we arm you with insights, tools, and tactics in order for you to master your mind so you can master your market, the business you're running, and the world around you. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you set out with full intention to accomplish a goal, only to look back a few months later not having accomplished it? There's lots of reasons for that. We leverage a lot of the Stoic principles here on the podcast, things like logic, reason, but we're more than that. We are emotional, we are pattern seeking, we have bad days, we have things that happen in our life that derail us. And there's actually some tools that we'll discuss today that'll provide you a bridge in order for you to get things done. The first of which is the teachings of James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, very powerful book, very influential in my life, that outlines what it really takes to set goals, quote unquote, and I'll get to this goal concept in a bit, but the idea that making small 1% changes in your life can have dynamic, huge implications in the future. The second is Chase Hughes, who runs the Neurocognitive Intelligence Institute and teaches a lot of the military intelligence, the subconscious elements of what it takes to accomplish things. Those two coming together with Stoicism are going to give you a framework in order for you to get things done. I'm going to break down today's podcast into 4 parts in order to make it more actionable, more relatable, and in the end, provide you a really good framework to build these things into your life in the way that you live your life so you can get things done. Part 1, your mind has 2 operating systems. You can think about your mind having the conscious or higher level version of the OS. That's the part that is talking with you today. That's the part that's interacting with the world around me. That's the part that has the reasoning power to look at certain things and make decisions. That's the part that we are exposed to day in, day out. Then there's the subconscious that lives beneath our awareness. That's the part that runs our own body. That's the part that serves us fear. That's the part that serves us excitement. And ultimately, that's the part that has the most power in derailing or accomplishing the goals and the things that we want to become. Now, the real power comes in the ability, since we can't access it normally, we've got to hack our ability to drive down instructions into the subconscious so that we can actually get things accomplished. And I like to use the analogy of a ship. Imagine your mind being a ship. The captain of the ship is our consciousness. The captain is who decides on the values that we live by. The captain decides on where we're going. The captain gives us speeches, and day in, day out is the one we live in our brain all the time. Then there's the subconscious, which is the crew. They're doing the day in, day out work. They're the ones that are accomplishing running this body. They're the ones that are serving us up fear and excitement and motivations. And there's so much that happens underneath the surface, but it's hard to access. Not impossible, but hard. We have some actionable tools you can use today that you can reference on the higher level or the captain side in order to get the crew to do what you want. Part 2, Atomic Habits, 1% to greatness. The idea behind James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, is that small changes that we do in our life, small habits that we adopt, will have more impact if done consistently than these big sweeping things that we expect or think will actually accomplish these goals. He uses the idea of that habits are almost like compound interest, but in the self-development space. That if we work on these small 1% habits over time, they'll actually be more impactful than trying to make monumental changes in our life. And I can attest to this. I've actually done this in my own life, and it's had huge implications of positivity, and I've been able to accomplish the goal. But I want to talk about that word goal. So we have this idea in our mind that our goal should be the destination. We want to accomplish something, like we want to be able to speak a foreign language. We want to lose 20 pounds, whatever it is. But what really has the most impact is creating a system around what we do on a day-to-day basis so that our identity will change and we will become the person that goes to the gym and eats right. So the idea is that the goal is a natural result of the identity that we've become. So rather than think, okay, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to do all these things in order to lose 20 pounds. Instead, if I focus on, I'm going to be one of those guys that goes to the gym and eats right. I'm going to be one of those guys that goes to the restaurant and asks them to put half of it in a to-go box before it even comes onto my table. Those changes, those 1% changes, is what has more impact than trying to do these crazy things. And that has to do with that idea, again, of the subconscious. The subconscious is really fighting for keeping us comfortable, keeping us safe. And I'm going to tap into that during when I talk about Chase Hughes' stuff, because it's very powerful as well. So the idea of atomic habits, the name of the book, really breaks it down. So atomic comes from the fact that these are small, minuscule, atomic level, almost like an atom, changes we make in our life. But the other side of atomic is it's very powerful. So I have seen this work in my own life and others around me. He uses the idea of traveling. So I'll use this. So say, for instance, you're traveling from LA to Seoul, Korea, and your plane makes a 1% or this tiny, tiny change through that amount of time. If you make that 1% change, you'll actually land in Pyongyang, North Korea, rather than Seoul, South Korea. Just as in life, you make small changes every day, and in the end, they're going to have these major impacts. He talks about the British racing team that had a 100-year drought of winning these major awards like the Olympics or the Tour de France. So they made these changes. They brought in some folks that had this mindset in mind, and they made all these minute changes, like they painted the inside of the vans white so they could see any foreign objects like dirt or nails or whatever. They brought in doctors to teach the riders how to wash their hands properly so they wouldn't get sick. They brought in people that had expertise on sleeping and even recommended pillows they should use. They did so many things with the bibs that we're wearing. So they focused on all these elements. And while they're tiny, collectively, what they did is they propelled the European or the British racing team to win the Tour de France, to win the Olympics, and really change the course of who they are, and their identity changed, of course. So this concept is really about systems. You create systems around you in order to create habits, in order to change your identity about the person that you are so that you can accomplish those quote unquote goals. Let's use the example of getting fit. Say you want to lose 25 pounds or gain 10 pounds of muscle or whatever, which is something I did, by the way. I lost weight, I gained muscle, and I did it by doing what? By focusing in on these systems around my house so that it was very, very easy in order for me to go to the gym and eat right. That means laying out my clothes or putting my shoes by my bed before I go to bed. That means that creating the space, paying for a personal trainer so that I gotta go. If I don't, I lose the money. That, believe it or not, is a huge system in place in order to get me to go there. Because oftentimes I'm laying in bed, I don't want to go. It's 5:30 in the morning, and the last thing I want to do is get up in the cold and go to my workout. But every single time without fail, after I'm done with my workout, I'm so glad I did. And it's the systems that I put in place in order to reach that goal that has allowed me to accomplish the goal. Something about the goal that I'll also mention is that in conventional thinking, once you reach that said goal, now what? So if your goal is to lose 25 pounds and gain 10 pounds of muscle and you get there, then what? Then you're going to take a back seat. Then you're not going to go to the gym. Your diet's going to go out the window, and you're going to fall right back into place and gain the weight, and sometimes even gain more weight, and it's gone. But if your identity is different, if your behaviors are different, if your habits are different, and if your systems are different, then you will accomplish the goal. The end goal of what you really want is to be a fit person who lives a life of being athletic, muscular, and slim or whatever. And that is way more impactful than actually just reaching the goal by itself. So this idea is very powerful. I suggest that you pick up his book. There's got lots of podcast performances out there as well. And it's a framework you can use in your day in, day out life in order to accomplish your set goals. But really, it's about creating a new identity for who you are that is the person that will accomplish the goal as a result of your identity. Part 3, under the hood, understanding the subconscious mind. We learned in the previous segment that willing our way to accomplishing our goal or whatever we want to accomplish is almost impossible. We learned that we had to create systems in order to change our behavior, in order to create habits so that our identity changes to become the person that will accomplish that said goal. And we learned that process, that our subconscious mind is fighting us in that whole idea. I want to go deeper. I want to leverage the teachings of Chase Hughes, who is a behavioral scientist and runs the Neurocognitive Intelligence Institute, wrote the Behavior Ops Manual, this book here, which is a lot of information. I'm just going to give you a flavor of what he teaches. And the idea is that our subconscious mind will try to self-sabotage our day, our decisions all the time. Let me give you an example. Say, for instance, you're going to go to the gym the next morning. You decide to go to the gym. And you don't have an expensive personal trainer. You're just going to go to the gym. It's 5:15 in the morning. You're laying in bed. You should be up. But your subconscious mind tells you, man, that bed is so nice and warm. It's so nice. You really do need your sleep. You should just sleep right now. And so you slide into sleep. You just stay there. You don't go to the gym. The idea is that your subconscious mind is fighting you to keep you comfortable because it prioritizes safety, number one, comfort, number two. Stepping out of your comfort zone is hard. It's difficult. It puts you out there. There's lots of sayings like the things you want in life are on the other side of comfort, or that comfort is a killer, which are both true, by the way. And there's been absolutely no time at all when I've decided to go to the gym against my will, quote unquote, my higher self. I go to the gym. In my case, I've got a system. Get to the gym, not really wanting to be there, do my workout. There's been 0 times when I've regretted that. Every single time, I'm happy I did. And the idea that he talks about is that, sure, the emotion is the conversation that we have in our subconscious, and it manifests its way out. We know it, we've seen it, we've felt it, we've dealt with it. He uses something called fear to brainwash your mind. And fear, not that fear, but let me give you the acronym here. Fear is focus, emotion, agitation, and repetition. The idea with focus is you want constant daily reminders of your habits, of your behaviors, of your goals, if you will. Constant. I actually have a screen in my living room with rotating, like a vision board with 125 pictures that rotate every few seconds that paint the picture of my, quote, vision board. Now, I don't believe in the manifestation in the kind of the woo sense. I believe what it does is it arms our brain, our reticular activating system, in order to identify opportunity and give us the confidence to lean in when we would normally not lean in. I think that's how it works, in my opinion. And so this focus gives me that. The focus is I write my goals down and I review them on a Sunday night before the week. Usually it's on my phone. I'm looking at what I need to do that week. And it's a constant reminder. I've got to constantly be on top of my focus and what I need to do. The second thing is emotion. You want to create a deep emotional connection with that future self. Chase recommends that you download one of these apps that will give you an aged picture of who you are. And I did that. And I did two versions of it. I did the one that had a very positive, very healthy, very virile version of me in the future. And I did one that is not watching what he eats, drinking too much, not exercising, and they're both very different. That emotional attachment, the black and white, gives me a tremendous amount of motivation to get my butt in gear. The next one is agitation. Agitation is you want to disrupt old patterns. That means, it could mean rearranging your furniture. It could mean changing your wardrobe. It could mean decluttering. You want to agitate and create some disruption in your life because you're settling into these grooves of your habits. If one of your habits is going to a particular coffee shop or restaurant and you're exposed to a dozen chicken wings on a Monday, or you're exposed to that croissant that's just sitting there all the time, if you want to really accomplish the physical goals I mentioned for myself, at least earlier, I want to take myself away from that. I want to create agitation in my life. And so I want to do other things. So figure out what those things are and lean into them, because in the end, they're going to give you the separation and that new direction that you need to accomplish your whatever you want to do. And the last one is repetition. Repetition is doing things day in, day out. That means that, as human beings, we're social animals. We like repetition. We like certain things to be a certain way. Not everybody has the same grade of that. Some people like lots of change, but people that like lots of change also have some level of wanting things to be the same. If your meal is changing, whether you eat it at 7 in the morning or 11 in the morning or whatever, you're going to want some level of consistency in order to create that repetition so that you're eating right. So your first meal is at 11. Things are going to happen, so you might have to move it from time to time, but you want to keep that repetition. For instance, in the morning, I drink a big glass of water. I get my body moving, and I've got to do it. Otherwise, I don't feel the same. And I've recognized that I tied that back into my emotion, that I need to create that repetition. And ultimately, understanding your subconscious mind and having these tools and tactics in order to tease away from the status quo is going to give you more tools, more ammunition in order to create those systems and the behaviors and the habits and the identity to accomplish the goals that you set out to. Part 4, bridging Stoicism with modern psychology. This is where the Profectory lives, at the intersection of timeless wisdom and modern research-based tools and insights. We just learned that we can't simply just will our way to get things done, that our subconscious mind is always going to prioritize safety and comfort over some future self that we want to become. In Stoicism, we're taught all about self-governance. We're taught about logic. We're taught about reason. We taught about how to react to the world around us. We know, and we just learned as well, that we are emotional creatures. We seek patterns. We get pissed off. We have good days. We have bad days. And you mix things together, and we've got to create systems around us that'll get us to what we need to be. We also need to understand the subconscious mind, because there's a tremendous amount of power in order to create these tactics and tools to hack our brain, our mind, to get the things done that we want to get done. So if we combine the teachings of James Clear, the systems thinking, with the understanding of how to reprogram the subconscious mind by Chase Hughes, blended together with Stoic principles of self-governance, we have a very powerful tool to make huge change in your life. Now, it breaks down to a lot of little things, again, atomic habits for you to do, but I broke it down into 4 things to move forward with. But before I talk about those 4, I invite you to go out and spend some time online to start with, understanding the teachings of James Clear and Chase Hughes. You can look on, there's a podcast, there's interviews, there's YouTube videos. They also have courses, there's books. Get immersed in that if you really want to reach that higher level person. And there's just a vast amount of information. I just began talking about, for instance, Chase Hughes' book here is almost 800 pages. I'm not going to get much information to you from that book, but the very high level information. I wanted to give you the at least the directions of where to go to get the information. But let me dive in. The first of which you want to, number one, define your identity. Who is that person that you want to become? Focus more on identity and less about things you want to accomplish. And you want to paint as clear as picture as possible. And that picture is in the form of things you write, like in a journal. That picture is in the form of maybe even using one of those tools, maybe using Photoshop, having an AI tool put you in a particular place. Because one thing I didn't talk about is your brain cannot distinguish between reality and deeply ingrained thoughts. Your brain also doesn't understand, your subconscious mind does not understand the word no. This is why when you're doing something and you're saying, I don't want to fall, you have a tendency to fall more. Rather than you might want to say, I want to be standing, because your brain doesn't know it. All your brain hears is fall. And so, number one, define your identity. Number two, design systems around you to make that accomplishing that identity frictionless. You want to make it as easy as possible. If your identity is to be a person who is in shape, who is virile, who is living life with vitality and abundance, then in your whole life, create no friction in order for that identity to be true. That means getting rid of friends that don't serve you. That means getting rid of family this is some controversial stuff, right? Getting rid of family and friends that don't support you. You can still love them, but just push them away. That means rearranging your life. That means going in your pantry, getting rid of all the stuff that doesn't serve you. That means getting rid of decluttering. That means whatever it means in your world to create no friction, do it. Another thing that I didn't talk about that James Clear talks about is the idea of habit stacking. That means on top of one habit that you already have, you put a new habit. And by doing so, you have more of a propensity to make it a lasting habit. Number three, engage your subconscious. So this has to do with visualizing that future person all the time, as clear as possible. Get one of those apps, write it down, write messages on your mirror. So you want to engage your subconscious. And of course, we learned that emotion is the language of the subconscious. I like to do something in the very early morning. As I'm waking up, there's about 30 seconds when you're halfway in, halfway out. And by the way, I don't use an alarm typically. So maybe if you use an alarm, it might be more difficult. But for me, in that halfway point, I visualize something that I want to become true. And all that's really doing is because my mind can't separate reality from something that is just fiction. I'm basically telling my brain that this is already happening, and it gives me that edge. I mentioned earlier the ability to identify opportunities and act upon them. It gives me that edge. So in my brain, I feel as though that's already happened. I visualize whatever I want to accomplish already happening. Matter of fact, I sort of quote unquote manifested an RV, right? This podcast will be broadcast from an RV here very soon. We're retrofitting it. But I had that on my vision screen 3 months ago, and I saw the opportunity, or maybe it was 6 months ago, saw the opportunity, took it, and now it's becoming a reality. And that's because it's a daily reminder. It's a lot of happening under the hood in the subconscious mind, a lot of calculations, and it just has to be always reminded through this subconscious emotional connection. Number 4, and this is the part where it really comes from some level of Stoicism as well, and that is practice stillness. So you want to listen to the resistance that comes from that stillness. You want to work with it, not against it. And, meditation is a very powerful tool that I recommend that you do. And it's nothing too crazy. People think meditation has to be this huge, grandiose thing where you got to sit down for an hour and you're going to be uncomfortable and you're going to have incense burning. And, meditation could be walking around the block. Meditation could be sitting for 30 seconds, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your butt on the chair, listening to the air conditioning, listening to the birds, and just focusing on that. Because what stillness really does is it takes the break off momentarily of your mind and lets it kind of stop fighting itself. It just free flows. So when I meditate, sometimes I have things come into my brain and I don't push back. I've learned to just let it go. These fears, they come in, they come out. These aspirations, they come in, they come out. Even if they're good or bad, I just let them flow. And what's happening is, I feel as though it's reorganizing my subconscious mind so that when I break from that meditation, I'm now more aligned, I've got more calm. And by the way, I think calm is something that is super powerful. And it's a tool that I wish I would have learned how to do better as when I was younger, because I had a tendency to be very reactive. I had a tendency to say things that were hurtful or that were painful or that were devastating at times in business and in life. And having practiced calmness, which is a daily practice, by the way, it's not like I'm healed. It's a constant, vigilant practice. I need to practice calm. When I sit with the stillness, when I sit with the meditation, it reinforces that and it makes me calmer throughout the day. And it also helps with just bringing down your blood pressure, your stress, very powerful. So to kind of wrap up, Profectory is all about arming you with these outside tools, right? Understanding trends, understanding the way the market works. And we're going to talk about lots of stuff like that, but also understanding the inner self, these things I just talked about, these topics. If you found this valuable, I would say please share this with people around you. Please rewind, please subscribe, please be part of the conversation. I'm doing this because I feel very compelled to share my story and what I've learned in life, and this medium, which I'm very happy that exists, is able to let me share this with my audience. And I'm excited for the guests we have coming up. We have some very impactful guests that will blow your mind. We have some really cool topics that we'll address. And with that, I am thank you for your time and very thankful for this opportunity.